Yep. Okay, great. So I want to welcome Stephen Boscola and Anne Sherwood Dyke from Save Mattituck Inlet. And as probably many of you know, there is quite an impactful project planned by Strong's Marina, which would involve the excavation of and removal of really, it's a huge, well, how would you describe it? It's a hill. It's a hill. They're breaking into a hill.
Yeah.
And the taking down of many trees and the moving of sand or in and out of our little roads. So it's really quite a big project for that space, and it's kind of just really a bold application. But it's a bold application. And before these guys starts, I just want to mention, and probably many of you have heard about this, we do have a nature school that we're running Tuesdays and Thursdays. People can sign up for 2-week sessions. It's from 6 to 10 years of age, 10 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. And we do have lots of scholarship money. So if you know anybody who would like to send their kids 2 days a week, it's at the Inlet Pond, Roy Latham Nature Center. And we have a wonderful camp educator. His name is Tyler Armstrong. He used to work at the South Fork Natural History Museum. He's a former East Hampton Town trustee. So if you know any kids, send them our way. So I'm going to let Anne and Stephen start. And they have a slide deck. So Stephen is sharing his screen.
So I'll start with, Scott was asking just recently how we came together, and I would say this is my first experience with, I like to call it grassroots community organizing or community activism. In the spring of 2020, the project that Strong's Boat Storage Project is the official name, and we will get into more detail about the project shortly, but just it's a construction development on the actual inlet, on the edge of the water itself. And so we members, I would say people who became aware of the project because, officially the town has to notify, people who live in the immediate vicinity. But so the information got out about this project, which is enormous in size and impact, and just would completely transform in a very negative way the community character of where we live. We galvanized a group centered around the couple of hearings that the town planning board held, and I think a core group of us realized that out of some combination of anxiety and foresight and determination, these qualities that we tapped into that I think people can relate to, but we wanted to give shape and direction to those feelings of either helplessness. But then as it turns out, what this is we have become I almost see us as a branch of the local government. The community has an important role. There's a place for this, what we do. We're invited, regularly to comment in the official process for, reviewing this project. So it's taken, I'd say, the group that, really, there was no, it's not like this is a volunteer organization, but we're, this idea of a community voice, and that we can advocate for, in particular, transparency in the process of the town reviewing this project, and of course learning from, we have scientists and attorneys and planning specialists in our group, and we're learning about how to understand the potentially negative impacts of this project.
Anne, can I interrupt you? I forgot to say that Anne and Stephen are willing to take questions as we go along. So if you would just raise your hand or put your question in the chat, that would be great. Sorry about that.
No problem. So so this is the area in question, and it's been our main focus since we got together. And this is the Strong's boat storage project, and it's located just south of Mattituck, the Breakwater Beach. It's about a mile south of the creek. Before it was Strong's Yacht Center, it was Mattituck Inlet Marina, and it changed hands back in 2016 when the Strong family purchased the property, started making some improvements to the property, which has attracted more boaters to the area, which we found to be both a good thing and not such a great thing when you look at sort of the increased boat traffic, people speeding on the water, impacts to the marshland, potential waste dumping from boats, things like that. So it's another focus of ours. But when this project came about, we kind of got very concerned because of its proximity to the Mill Road Preserve, which you'll see right here, and also just the environmental impacts itself and the scale of this project. So to take a closer look here, this red line is sort of the area in question. Now, this entire piece of property up to West Mill Road is owned by the Strongs, but this piece here is what they're looking to cut down. So it's a 4-acre forest. There's an elevation here of about 50 feet. And what they want to do is cut down 630 mature trees, which all make up this entire area. And unfortunately, the rest of this area is sort of, second level forest, whereas this is all where the majority of the mature trees are. The Mill Road Preserve is right here. One of our main concerns is that if you cut a big hole into this area, you're going to severely negatively impact this Mill Road Preserve as well. Once they cut down all the trees, they want to excavate this entire hillside. It's 134,000 cubic yards of sand, and it would take the elevation down to about 10 feet. Once they do that, they would replace that area with two 45-foot tall buildings that would be set on the 10-foot elevation, so 55-foot high storage buildings for boat storage. Now, all of the buildings on this property combined are about 69,000 square feet. These buildings here would be 1.5 times more than all of those buildings combined. In addition, they want to make them heated, so that would involve storing 8,000 gallons of propane on the site, which makes some of us in the immediate area here a little nervous about the fire risk. And so one building would be 22,000. Sorry, these buildings here, just to put it into some perspective, these two buildings total 22,000 square feet, and it's 24 foot high. This building here is 15,000 square feet, and it's 24 feet high. These new buildings would be 17 foot higher than these buildings and 4.5 times larger than these two buildings right here. So it's just a massive project. This is the drawing. The actual from the plans. So once the slope is cut, they would put in an 875-foot long concrete retaining wall to hold back the slope. And then they would construct the first building. And then once they can show the bank that they have 60% occupancy in this building, they'll get financing for the second building. Now, our biggest concern is that none of this actually gets built, and this hill gets mined out, the sand is taken away, and then the construction project just falls away, and it's become a sand mining operation, which never needed a permit. And so if that happens, you obviously can't put the forest back, right? And that is like one of our huge, major concerns with this project. The developer has been quoted as saying these are just like potato barns, like you'd see in our area. These are not potato barns. Think of these more as the 100,000 square foot Amazon warehouse that was just built over in West Hampton Beach by the airport. That's basically, if you added these two up, that's about what you're looking at. They're just absolutely massive in size and scale.
So, the facts, the statistics really, just to elaborate a little bit, by taking down, the number 630 is determined by measuring trees that are 6 inches in diameter or greater. So there's many more trees that create that forest that's adjacent to the publicly owned preserve that are smaller, and they're cut down too. So in terms of this sort of official portrait of the project, the 630 is a big number. It's actually in reality a much bigger number in terms of the destruction that would be irreversible. We will continue to talk about this 134,000 cubic yards of sand that it's a commodity. Sand is a valuable commodity. It's almost, so the idea, if you take sand out of a property and then for the purpose of building something on top of that site, you are not required to get a permit for sand mining. So this is we feel a bit of a disguised project, as Stephen explained, that the value of this sand that's sitting there that would be removed could be really the end result, could be really the goal of this project in terms of the developer's mindset. And again, in order to do that, you have to cut down the trees, and taking this sand out, the statistics in terms of measuring the thousands of truck trips that need to be made over roads that are not engineered for the largest, hauling trucks that would be making, almost continual round trips over months in order to accomplish this. And that's sort of in the best of circumstances. That's considering, that there's not stoppages from weather or, pandemic wave or, fuel costs or materials or truck availability or drivers. There's this sort of best case scenario that's really bad, but you have to almost assume that that's not going to be the case. So I think just to underscore this is a waterway, a community feature that runs, from the Sound. It's the watershed. It goes into the Sound. Many people have, access to this either from their homes or from the public launches for recreational purposes, kayaking. It's a shared resource, not only from a visual standpoint, from an aesthetic standpoint, but all of the layers of flora and fauna, both on land and in the water, that are, would be impacted and disrupted through this incredible, kind of, destructive project on the edge of the water. That's right. It's not inland. It's right verging on the edge of the water.
So Lucy Cutler has a question. She has her hand raised.
Yes. Hi, Lucy.
Hi. Do you all have an estimate on the value of the sand that may be mined and sold?
I think we've kind of come up with a range, and I think it's a wide range, but it's in the $2 to $5 million range for all that sand. It's good, clean sand. So and the majority of it is good, clean sand. So from a sales perspective, it would fetch a pretty good rate per cubic yard.
Yeah, thank you. I think most of us don't realize the value of that sand. I mean, obviously it's a precious commodity and very important to stay in the site and not be sold and placed somewhere else. So thank you.
Right, and especially on Long Island too. There's only so much, and I think the alternative, if somebody needs to purchase sand, would be to have it trucked in, to Long Island, which would make it even more expensive. And so, being able to sell it here is an attractive proposition for somebody who's sitting on a hill like this and can sell it off. It definitely, is enticing.
But, again, we've, just like the idea that you can, this isn't something that you can, remove and put back. Once we take this all away and destroy the forest and impact the water and the adjacent public land, you can't put it back. You can't go backwards in time. We've talked a little bit about the fact that the town is, in 2020, the town planning board made what is known as a positive declaration, meaning that they saw that there were potentially negative environmental impacts of this project. And so it would needed to go through a SECRA review process. And so that's actually the main, I would say, the steps that we're taking as a group to respond to raise awareness and to respond to the town planning board's review process is becoming familiar with that legislation, becoming familiar with the different discrete steps. And in terms of the first step that we went through was helping the town put together a really rigorous checklist that the developer needed to go through in terms of pollution, vibration, groundwater. There's 24 pages of traffic implications, air pollution, sound, impact on wildlife, and we helped sort of make this. And this was, again, with other groups that we've partnered with, Save the Sound, the North Fork Environmental Council, multiple groups we reached out to get their input on the things that needed to be studied by the developer as part of the EIS stands for Environmental Impact Statement. So the first response in response to the checklist that was called the scope that we supported the town planning board to develop, the developer took a year to, with the help of consultants, he paid for the draft environmental impact statement that was submitted this spring. And we'll go into a little more detail as we're talking, but one aspect of looking so deeply and in such a detailed way at the project is that up to 91 bird species were observed or expected to be seen on the site, and this is referenced in this draft environmental impact statement. And so there's in terms of the looking specifically at the bird population that might be affected, this is, it's significant between the bird population and, losing the forests and the impact on the Mill Road Preserve. This is all aspects of the draft environmental impact statement that the developer has submitted.
Right. So where we are right now was the draft environmental impact statement was submitted to the planning department in December of 2021, and they spent about 5 months reviewing it. They brought in an outside consultant to help with parts of the DEIS in which they didn't have expertise in. And on May 10th, the planning board deemed the DEIS inadequate for public review. So what this means now is the developer has to go back, and he could either choose to do it or not to do it. He has as long as he wants to go back and fix the DEIS and resubmit it. And then the town planning department will re-review it. And once, if and when they deem it adequate for public review, there'll be a comment period that'll be opened up. And so we're trying to stay very on top of the timeline here. The DEIS is still out there for people to look at. Saying that it's not adequate for public review just means the town planning department won't necessarily take specific comments on it just yet. However, they do have it out there for people to sort of read and digest, because it is a huge document, but it is broken up into sections. So if you're interested in any one particular section, water quality, air quality, birds, mammals, things like that, you can find those sections in here. We wanted to highlight for the Audubon members, specifically if you go to the DEIS, which you can find on our website, and you go to page 121 of the core document, you'll find that list of bird species that Anne mentioned were identified or expected to be identified on the property. And as you go through it, you think to yourself, is it complete? Is it accurate? Is it truthful? Is it saying all the, is it highlighting, what's really at issue here? And does the developer offer enough mitigation to the environmental impacts? Things like saying we're going to cut down 630 mature trees, but we're going to plant 100 new trees and then a few trees throughout the town. Does that suffice as a mitigation to that? We personally don't think so, but that's up for debate, I suppose. And when the comment period does open, and we'll be sure to get the word out, the planning department will take comments, and they're looking for substantive comments, things like we would have liked to see more information about this. What about this? More specific than just this is a terrible project, right? We all know it's a terrible project, but they're looking for things that might have been missed, things that might have been deliberately left out, or not gone into enough detail. And that's one of the things that has been highlighted in the inadequacy, is certain things on traffic, groundwater have just been completely ignored, and the planning department saw that. And so, as we think about where we are in the process, we see ourselves as an advocate for the planning department and the planning board. There are 5 members in their department, and they have right now 6 huge projects under concurrent review. Right, you have Enclaves, Peconic Bay Winery. There's 3 hotels, a sports complex, Brinkman's Hardware is still out there, and then this project. And so one of the things we've tried to help do is highlight, what we can, get the word out, garner as much public, input as we can, and sort of help the planning board in their review. And one of the things to think about as we go through the DEIS is, should the town consider using an outside consultant? It's something that they raised back in 2019 when they first got this proposal, because they knew there were certain things about this that were never seen before by the town of Southold, something this large. And the cost of that outside consultant can and should be reimbursed by the developer. And with our public outreach, we have collected 2,841 petition signatures in regards to this proposal, and I think what was it at? I think it was at 2,500 when we did the last presentation. So the numbers keep going up. Right. Every week it seems the numbers are going up, and that's what we're going to continue to keep getting the word out.
Yeah, this is. We have a database of people who have, which we're inviting anyone to just send, go to our website. You can send your email to us, and then we send out, I would say every, few weeks to a month or so, a kind of update on where the project is, or if there's anything significant that people should know about. But the petition is notable. I think that the people have readily signed signed on to their objections to this project. It's almost the entire population of Mattituck in terms of numbers. So we're inviting that anyone to go online and go ahead and sign our petition and join that list. So, just to recap what it's meant to be part of this group and part of this effort, in a relatively short time, it's been, a little over a year and a half. It's been gratifying, and it sort of helps me anyway, personally, sort of balance this sense of anxiety or, concern or worry that something like this could, be part of our community, and it's just so out of character and so destructive, but that a community can come together. It certainly takes work. We put in several hours a week, each of us, sometimes more during a push time. We've, the sort of shift of mindset of, it's not so much that we are not, just angry forces in the community. We're not anti-development. We are, we share the beauty, but also the importance of people having a livelihood and the kind of, economic security that we want the entire community to feel. It's not like we don't want, a thoughtful way of moving forward for everyone. But, for example, this project, could be done someplace else. This is just not the right location for this project. So we have no objection to people storing yachts. It's just the way this is, the way this has been proposed is just unacceptable. So it isn't, we don't want to feel it's a supportive position. We're supporting the town board, the town staff. There isn't a tone of like personal antagonism. It's really more a kind of open-minded problem solving, as a group and with the community.
Right. And so if anybody's interested in getting involved or learning more, here are ways, we have our own website. You could scan that QR code with your phone right off the screen, or SaveMattituckInlet.com. The link to our petition is there. Links to our Facebook page, Instagram, those are on there as well. And, if you have any other questions, we can answer them here, or, feel free to always shoot us an email, and we'd be happy to provide more detail or give other ways to get involved.
So I have a question. So you said the revised DEIS can drop at any time,
Right.
Next month or a year from now.
Right.
So, and that probably is the best time for people to make those substantive comments that you talked about, right? Once it is there, does the town, you said the town has been pretty proactive in giving, well, I should rephrase that. I went on to the microfiche of the town to look at the files, and there are a lot of letters from supporters, but I didn't see too many from, so they were accepting letters, correct, from some people, but they didn't put everybody's correspondence there.
Right. So to your point about, keeping an eye on government, we did send a letter to the planning board, to the planning department, and just said, if you are taking comments, let us start, submitting our comments. And what happened was the developer was just handing out these form letters to people that would, go into his restaurant or just happen to be on his property. And he was just getting signatures and trying to submit them to gain traction. There are letters in the other microfiche files from when the scoping scoping document was written, where a lot of people had voiced their concerns, things like that. So they said they weren't taking comments. They actually didn't even, these weren't even comments on the DEIS. These were just people saying, sure, I support this project. But, as they've reminded us, this isn't a popularity contest, and that's why they're looking for somebody to say, no, the number of truck trips wasn't properly identified, and here's the reason why. Or, saying that you're going to plant 100 trees when you've cut down 600 is enough for carbon sequestration. No, and those are the kind of comments that they're looking for. But yes, there was a public correspondence folder that was put out there. I think it was just a place to kind of store these letters. But one of our letters is in there with comments from our petition. So we've attached that, and just to get it on so that they have it on the record.
So I guess so people are clear. So once this DEIS drops, hopefully it'll give us more than 30 days to look at it and digest it. And because sometimes government's been known to do that. So that is really the best time for organizations or individuals to comment after the DEIS is released, or re-released, I should say.
Right. I mean, I think there were about 7 sections that will need to be updated in the DEIS. Now, if some of them are related to traffic, like I think they didn't do a proper pedestrian count with tracking the walkers in the area, people that are jogging in the neighborhood. That was a 4-season study. They might have to go back and repeat that. So it could take a year, or they could find a way to try to, shortcut it a little less and get it resubmitted. I check the town Laserfiche file every single day. So hopefully I'll catch the minute it's out. But that's why we're also encouraging folks to take a look at the DEIS now and just sort of get familiar with, if this is a particular section that, speaks to you or you have experience with, there's a chance that doesn't change. And if you have your comments ready and that's one of the things that we did as a group as well, is, we sort of got to work because we didn't know, how long this would take. So, yes, it could drop tomorrow, or it could drop in a year from now. But if people have had a chance to go through and just see the structure of a DEIS, for most of us in Save Mattituck Inlet, this was the first time we've even seen one of these documents. So it was a big learning curve for us. But that's why we'd be ready to go. And yes, I think the comment period is 30 days, which is not a lot of time, but
Yes. So you can actually sort of have a pre-game for the comments.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Right. We have, we've gone through very carefully every section of the DEIS, and we have, we've reviewed it, and we've identified weak areas or unclear areas or things that don't seem to be true. And it's a useful exercise even to just read it and become familiar with, the language and the sections and the organization of it, almost like learning, how to make an outline or something like that. Like it's very clear, it's very logical. There's sort of interconnected aspects. Some of the sections, relate to others, and you can see that, they're organized. There is a little bit of overlap, but it's a useful exercise to even though it will come back with revisions in the second draft of the environmental impact statement, it will have probably more, that's the same in terms of what you might be reading. It isn't going to come back a completely rewritten document there. So I would encourage people to just take a look and, begin to become familiar with it and see where you think the weaknesses are.
I just have to give a shout out. When I was first learning about Secret, there's something called the Secret Cookbook that you can download off I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but for those of us, or those of you who are not familiar with that whole environmental review process, it kind of is like a simplified version of how the whole process works. And it's not only good for understanding this particular project, but any project. So, and I think, New York State has it, in a downloadable copy. But does anybody else have any questions about this project, or how to comment, or how to get involved? I'm not seeing anybody. Pipe up, or
we appreciate everyone here tonight tuning in to learn about what we've been doing and hopefully get a better understanding of the project. Like I think I mentioned in the beginning, it's not your average development project. It's a complicated and has it just touches on so many. There's really it's adjacent to the water, it affects the water, it affects the land, it affects the public, preserve the roadways, school buses, children riding bikes, anyone trying to take a walk on a road between here and Sound Avenue over a period of months and months. So, it's just getting a feel for it, and our website has a lot of resources on it, all of the government documents. There's been many articles in the press about it that can give you background. We also encourage letters to the editor that with the Suffolk Times has been helpful in spreading the word. So, there's plenty to see on our website before you get to the government documents.
So there's a couple of comments in the chat. Gail says it's very important to submit comments and questions about the draft EIS so they're addressed in the revised EIS. And that's a good point. And also Lucy asked, can Audubon share this link to Save Mattituck Inlet? And we'll also put it on our YouTube channel as well. And we are having a newsletter come out, so I don't know if you guys would like to co-author an article for that, or one of you would like to do that. And if not,
Sure.
we could do it, but you are involved in this, so it would be great if you could. It should come out in August. So
yeah, just let us know how many words and the deadline, and if you need photos.
terrific. I'll be in touch. That's wonderful. So, okay, if nobody else, do you have anything else to say or to add, or?
Just, we really appreciate being, the support through your organization. It's been, and this is hopefully just the beginning of further conversations.
Yeah, and I'm sure when the time comes, you'll let everybody know when the DEIS is released. And if you have somebody that's helping you review it, to give us the main, maybe you could develop some, points that that people can stress. And obviously, water quality, air quality, the destruction of the woodlands, and the impact not just on Southold roads, but Riverhead roads as well, because that stuff's going to go west, right? So, we'd be happy to help in any way we can. But as I said earlier, I'm hopeful, because I think you have a wonderful group, and I think you've done a great job. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Gwen.
Oh, you're welcome. Take care, everyone.
Everyone have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.